Hello.
Now we're on the YouTubes. Now we're live on the
Hello.
YouTubes.
Hello, YouTube. Not hello, Twitch, because Twitch is still messed up, but we're going to fix it.
Oh, hi YouTube. Didn't see you there.
Yeah,
I was just
here
hanging
we
out with my
are.
friend Nathan.
It does not appear that YouTube has yet registered the fact that we are live on the actual YouTube
Hmm.
channel. Although I'm going to
Says we're
refresh.
live for the last 6 minutes.
No, we're live. Oh, okay, here we are. It just had a lag. There was a bigger lag. Um, all right. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello,
I'm
hello.
Nathan, and this is Justin, and we're going
Thank
to
you.
record a podcast today with you all present. In sort of a weird second level parasocial relationship that we're
Check
having
one,
here.
two. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
I'm a little quiet actually.
Mike,
Check, check, check.
Mike.
Check one,
This
two.
is
Check one,
the
two.
this is the pre-recording goodness that you usually miss, and only the Discord gets. That's not true. The Discord gets the raw stuff
Yeah, they get the real raw
that
stuff.
we filter out. We filter all of this out, and we give
The
you
real-
like pure, clear. It's sort of pure, clarified Nathan and Justin, but
The real nitty gritty.
Yeah, the Discord
know?
gets Discord gets like raw milk version. You guys get
Gross.
pasteurized, Nathan and Justin. Yeah.
All right.
Discord gets the raw milk.
I'll go ahead and I'll see us in, and we can talk about some football.
I am willing to do that. Yes.
Are you? Would you?
Yeah. So I'm feeling like so well rested that I feel like almost a little too composed.
Mm.
You know.
Oh man. Okay, let's do this then. I'm gonna see a very composed Nathan.
Mm-hmm. I mean, by the standards of a normal human, not very composed.
Sure, relatively
mean?
speaking, yeah. Okay. I have a burp coming. I'm gonna try not to burp into this microphone. Okay. Welcome to Chapel Bell
I'm
Curve.
ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to interrupt your intro. That's what I'm
Okay.
ready to do.
Welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, a stats-focused podcast about UJ football. I'm Justin,
And I'm Nathan.
and we're here because we're reviewing this past weekend's game, the game against Auburn, over in Jordan-Hare Stadium. The Wompings continue until further notice, apparently. So we will have today a little bit of our experiences. We'll talk about what the stats tell us. We'll talk about some other games that went on with some pretty significant stats, observations, takeaways, prediction reviews, and then ask CBCs your questions. But without further ado, I want to hear, how was your experience, Nathan?
I think my big takeaway from Saturday was sort of just an honest question, which is like, how the fuck does everyone else do this? I hate watching games from home. I'm so stressed out the whole time. I have nothing to do. And next time I have to watch a game from home, I'm just going to run like 10 miles beforehand or something so that I can, feel something during the game. I didn't really unclench my butt until probably that last Zeus touchdown, honestly, to put us up, 24 for good, which is probably too late. I probably could have relaxed before then, but I didn't. And, this is a serious question that I am open to taking advice about because I have to go to a wedding on Saturday and can't go to a pretty important game. And, I love the people who are having this wedding. And the good thing is that they're not college football people, so they didn't do this knowingly, At least they're innocent in that. Oh, my voice sounds crackly. Hold on.
It's just on
I'm
Discord.
gonna unconnect my mask. Oh, is it? You don't think it's my? It's
I
just
don't think so.
Discord, not my. Okay, well, I could turn off the. Do I have the background? I have the noise suppression on. I could turn it off. Is that better?
Yeah,
No change. Oh, it's better. Okay. Anyway,
a little bit.
My friends whose wedding I'm going to, it's actually a former student of mine who it's two of the nicest, kindest, most loving people I've ever met, and also my hairdresser. And I'm very happy to be going and to be there on their very important day for them. But I just really wish that maybe the timing was a touch better because I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't. I haven't decided. I might try to go to the first quarter of the game just so that I can bleed some nervous energy out and then leave. But that might hurt even more. I'm open to
be difficult.
suggestions. But yeah, that was my experience. It was just me rocking back and forth, anxiety coping, the whole time.
Uh-huh. Well,
So yeah.
I had my wife was out of town since Thursday, and so I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but whenever Anna goes out of town, I have maybe 6 hours where I'm like, no rules. Like we can do whatever we want. Pepper, me and Pepper are like doing whatever. We're eating sweets. I don't normally eat sweets, kind of thing. We go to bed at a reasonable hour, which we already do. Like, but we still pretend like we're doing something bad, you know. But I did make myself a bunch of buffalo wings, like too many buffalo wings, which I still have a ton in the fridge. And then really, just sat there on the couch and I drank like 2 glasses of rosé and ate buffalo wings with my dog. We, before the game, we actually went and, threw the ball a little bit so that Pepper could actually be chill during the game. But it was a pretty calm game, I feel, for me for the most part. Just kind of hung out, talked to folks in the Discord. It was wasn't doing anything else. Normally on the weekends, we're visiting with family or we're doing this or that, and I feel like this is the first game in a while where we were just kind of on the couch and watching the game, and that was kind of nice. It was good. After the game, though, that's when I did take a nap, like immediately following the game, like a very short nap. Woke up and realized the Alabama Texas A&M game was very interesting, and so I watched a little bit of that, and then eventually, because it remained interesting, went downtown in the third quarter to watch the rest with my friend Ben at Blue Sky. So, and you would have thought that Georgia beat Alabama with the way that downtown was celebrating. It was very much like very similar to the scene in Return of the Jedi when the Death Star is destroyed and all the Ewoks are like, ah! Having a real great time.
Yub,
man. Yub, y'all. It was a real good time. But
yeah, I have a very like sort of typical experience when I have to work the games, which is that I don't really drink during the games because my sympathetic nervous system can't handle it, and I don't really drink that much at all. So every time I watch a game from home, I then immediately drink 3 or 4 beers, and I'm like, all right, sleep time. And so I had my mom's birthday party on Saturday, so I couldn't do that. But I came over to my mom's house and I was like jubilant. I was like so happy, and they were like, "Oh, are you happy because we won?" And I'm like, "No, I'm happy because we didn't lose.
Because it's over."
And I'm so glad because I don't want to have to talk in front of hundreds of people about this bad thing happening because it makes me feel bad. So yeah, it was good. It was a good day. I thought it was not the most aesthetically pleasing thing that I've ever seen happen on a football a football field, but it got the job done, and UGA certainly didn't have their A game, which we can talk about how that's still very good in the relative sense.
Yeah,
but
what a nice little segue you have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much clinched up until Zeus had that last touchdown where he broke through 4 tackles, and that's when I knew they'd quit. Because they had him in the backfield, and he was like, "No, I'm going to run for a touchdown anyway." And that's how you made that ass quit. And once you see that, then you can start relaxing a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So let's use that segue and let's talk about some stats. What does stats tell us here?
Yeah.
Anything you're seeing? We're looking at GameOnPaper.com, which is I think the best website to look at the advanced box score for a game. If you look at GameOnPaper.com/CFB. It's the only way to fly, I personally think. And if you are in the Discord, I will paste into the stats channel that link as we speak. So, what are we seeing here on our Game on Paper box score that you guys?
If you haven't actually looked at Game on Paper yet, you when you do click through that link, you'll see that one of the first things you see is the win probability on the left and the expected points, the EPA chart on the right. And what's really fun about this one is the win probability is completely on Georgia's side the entire way through. So there was never a point in which Georgia fell below, 75% win probability on the day.
Well, they were 74% for about 2 plays, and yeah, then it was all downhill from there, basically from Auburn's perspective. And I will point out that the game excitement index of this was a 1.11, which is still very low, but is double to triple what it has been on average for the year. So this is a lot more exciting game. UGA actually had a win probability under 75%, which most of the games this year it has been up in the 90s basically the whole time. And, the low point has been, 95, 96. So, a closer game than we've had since Clemson, certainly. At one point, UGA was net EPA negative, which hasn't happened in a long time. In the first quarter, Auburn had 4 net of 4 EPA net, and UGA had negative 0.88. Of course, that was not the ending result. At the end of the day, UGA ended up with 7.29 total EPA, for 9.43 of that offensively, and negative 3.36 special teams EPA, which is interesting. But and then on the other hand, Auburn had negative 12 total EPA, negative 10 on offensively, negative 2 special teams, negative 1 on penalty EPA. So yeah, I I certainly felt like this was a game that was simultaneously not as close and closer than it seemed. I felt like the stats will tell you that this game wasn't close probably at all for very long. And I think that that's ultimately what I think is true. But also, this is a game where a couple of key, what your eyes tell you is that there were a couple of key plays that could have gone differently, that could have really changed it. One of which being that defensive stop that UJ had in the end zone in the half, which I do not think was a penalty really by any standard. I think that whether or not it was a penalty by the rule of the law is sort of irrelevant. This was a Latravius Brinney pass breakup on a 4th down play at the end of the second quarter. And I think whether or not it was technically pass interference is irrelevant, because it's not a call that gets made 80% of the time. Brinney did have the receiver's jersey down at the bottom, but that's not a call you make. Especially given that his hand got there as the ball did. And usually you reward that kind of coverage excellence with not throwing the ball or not throwing the flag. And sort of one of the themes of the day, I thought, on the penalty side was that they were pretty much letting people play. There were probably 4 to 5 egregious holdings on Auburn's that didn't get called, which, I think pretty much evens out penalties. Even though, obviously there's a 5-point swing in penalty EPA, I still think Auburn probably got as good as they gave penalty wise. Anything else you see here?
I was looking through.
I know there's some.
The middle 8 plays. This is the first time I think I've seen on all season when both teams had the same amount of plays through the middle 8 minutes of the game, which I found interesting. And it seems like it just kind of came out mostly neutral. I think at this point we had kind of let the offense not die down, but it seems to have kind of begun to come away a little bit. And it kind of shows in these numbers. The EPA for Georgia in those 12 plays was negative 0.63, while Auburn's was negative 1.84. So still a pretty significant difference there, but not nearly as strong middle 8 as the rest of the game.
I think that the middle 8 plays really shows that I think what Georgia did when they came back from the half was they held serve until they got right. And it wasn't a perfect game from Georgia, but I thought one of the impressive things about the third quarter was that certainly UGA didn't have a lot of success in those first couple of offensive drives, but in those middle 8 plays, they had 12 plays, of which 10 of them were rushes, and on those rushes they had a 60% success rate, which is very good. And at the very least, you kept Auburn off the board at the end of the second half. You got back out. I think you didn't have a 3-and-out in the first drive after half, but then you eventually had to punt, and then you sort of held serve on Auburn, didn't let them really do anything. And I think really one of the sort of situational, I guess I would say, I always get these two mixed up, but I guess one of the tactical advantages of having a defense at the level that UGA has is that even though you maybe can't rely on winning every game like your 2011 Alabama, which UGA has to this point done, you can't really rely on that throughout a year. But I do think that a very good elite defense is still valuable enough that that you can use your defense to help you break serve or to hold serve, by which I mean, if your defense can just reliably smother their offense, it gives your offense more time to get things right. Right? And I think that's kind of what we saw with UGA, where had an okay first half offensively, but then really came out in the second half and just absolutely I took the game over with the run game. I mean, overall, 69% rushes on the day for UGA, nice. 211 yards, 4.4 yards per play, but the EPA per play of 0.11, pretty good. Total EPA 5.1, right? EPA per play passing 0.18, which is getting close to very good. A competent pass offense about 0.2 per play is what you're looking for an above average pass offense. So, I mean, this was a game that I think it felt close, and I think without Georgia's defense, it would have been way closer. But of course, if wishes were fishes or whatever, I thought that ultimately, this was a game that, in hindsight, I'm like, well, yeah, that game wasn't that close, right? UGA had a net 19-point EPA differential on the day, so that's not a close game. But you know, on the other hand, it felt closer in the time because it felt like, well, UGA just barely made this play and they just barely made that play on defense. But it's like just barely making a bunch of plays is the mark of an elite defense, which at this point, I don't think that we can deny that UGA has anything but that. Is there anything else you want to look at on this advanced box score before we go on?
Something we don't actually talk about a lot is down near the bottom on game on paper. Yeah, game on paper is the most important plays spread, and this is kind of fun because it is all determined by absolute WPA and
EPA. EPA.
Oh, this one's
WPA was the works. Is it? Oh. Most
Big
important
plays are determined by EPA.
Win probability added. I thought you were talking about works project administration, and I was like, well, that is a core tenet of the New Deal and one of the like fundamental things that modern democracy is built on.
There you go. Yeah, this is a weird aside for this football game. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so all of these important plays are determined by the way the win probability swings in any one direction, which is determined by EPA. But what's really fantastic is there's several here for Auburn, but the ones that are most important to Auburn are the field goal, and the least important to Auburn is that time that Bo Nix threw the interception to Kobe Dean. So it was just a very uneventful game for Auburn overall, and the best they could do to swing this game in any direction towards them was the field goal early in the first quarter, which swung the win probability towards, it hit 20%. It was the highest they had on the day. So yeah, just a really, like you said, it's one of those things where it's like in the midst of it didn't feel like a wampin, but it sure did end up that way by the end of it. So
well,
what can you tell us?
I think the cumulative one thing I'll say is that the cumulative effect of having a very good defense is that, you know, if you think of like the finite there are two basically finite resources in a football game. One of them is time and one of them is snaps. And one of the sort of strategic, I guess, less tactical and more strategic ways that you can really get a huge advantage in a football game is by incrementally taking away one of those finite resources, right? So this is one of the advantages that, say, Army has, is they can run the ball efficiently 100 times a game, and it really shortens the game. And UGA, I think, does that shortening of a game in a similar way, which is to say that whatever your stop rate is, right, the percentage of plays that you keep your opponent from getting the yardage that they need, either on an EPA basis or on a success rate basis, whatever your stop rate is, what you've basically done is taken those plays away from Auburn's offense. You've limited the game, if not in time, but in snaps, right? And so UGA had a 58% stop rate on the day, which means that almost 60% of Auburn basically lost 60% of its plays on the day. And one of the things that it's hard to adjust to when you have a defense playing at this level is that those are incremental gains, but they're gains that add up, right? As you take snaps away from an offense, what you force them to do is press, because they have to score the same number of points over an increasingly smaller number of snaps as the game goes on, right? And this is an effect that I think magnifies even without the benefit of a clock pressing you, right? Auburn's offense felt pressed when they were down 17 points in the second quarter because they knew they were already hemorrhaging snaps, if not time. And I think, to me, that's really was one of the experiences of watching it from home. That's really what I took away was this sense of like, I feel uneasy, but I also feel like Auburn is losing things that it can't get back. And I think what it was losing was opportunities, right? They just ran out of opportunities to do anything good. And in the times where they did do good things, they didn't have enough chances to keep doing those, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's how you lose games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about all I got on this game. Do you want to talk about some specific to UGA stuff, or do you want to like sort of wrap around a couple of other games first?
Let's talk before we leave game on paper. Let's talk about a couple other games around the league, and then we'll come back to Georgia, because a couple of these games these could matter to us. One of them will most likely matter to us more than the other, but one of them being the Penn State Iowa game, which was really exciting, very very exciting. It it's another game that was all over the place. It was mostly in Penn State's side for the game, and then it swung way back into Iowa's side. But it was just one of those games that I was watching that I was so thankful for, despite having as many injuries that we have. I'm just so thankful that we're so deep and our offense is still incredibly competent in moving the ball down the field. Because these two teams just like beat the mess out of each other. Their offensive EPA on the day for each of them, Penn State was negative 22.8 and Iowa's was negative 11.8. Just like,
Yeah,
man.
I don't know that Iowa's very good defensively. I know, and I
Mm-hmm.
can pull their unadjusted ranks in just a moment, but I just don't know how good Iowa is, man.
I don't
Like they
either.
just
Yeah.
don't. They it just man, they just don't feel. It just doesn't feel like that consistently winning games on a negative 11 point EPA performance is sustainable.
It's
And
not
I know,
sustainable.
like, it almost sounds like a joke when I see it, but I don't know.
But it's interesting you say that too. And
But
like,
it's not. It's like they just didn't have a good game offensively, but their defense is playing at a very high level. But I don't think that's really sustainable, especially since they're going to play Ohio State. Like, I don't think this is even going to matter because I really think this Iowa State team or this Iowa team is going to get really pushed by Ohio State.
yeah, it's going to depend on whether or not they can actually hold Ohio State. And this would have been a Penn State game had they had their starting quarterback in. I feel like they would have come away with it. It would have been fine, but they definitely just kind of lost momentum and then could not regain momentum. But yeah, so there's that one. We'll see if that matters later on down the line. Iowa has a tough season remaining, just as you said, having to play Ohio State later on down the line.
Well, it's ironically they have a very like cakewalk regular season left, but you're right in the actual sort of
In the grand scheme,
I don't know the grand scheme of things. Yeah, you always have that looming. You're probably going to see Ohio State in the. I think Ohio State's like offense is probably the second best unit in the nation right now, and despite having a hiccup game to Oregon, you're probably going to see Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and I just don't see that going well. Anyway,
no.
carry on.
Other game on paper is the one that everyone's talking about, the Death Star being destroyed, of course. It's a bittersweet moment, I feel, but one we needed. This was the Alabama and Texas A&M game.
Bittersweet. No,
Bittersweet.
this was not bittersweet. This is a pound and a half of gummy bears, like shoved into the shape of a bigger gummy bear that you ate until you throw up.
Well,
It's
bittersweet,
good shit, man.
Bittersweet only because like I wanted it to be Kirby to be the first assistant to beat Nick Saban, but still thankful it happened. I'll eat it. I'll
Yep,
swallow it.
motherfucker.
I'm
I don't
okay.
care. That's fine.
I'm down here on
be
indoor,
whoever you
dancing
want.
my ass off.
Yeah,
Come over here,
yeah, I don't care.
C3PO.
Yeah,
Grind on me.
I look like a tall Ewok as it is.
Grind on me, C3PO. The game excitement index was 7.35 compared to Georgia's 1.1 whatever. Just a fascinating game too, because this is we talk about the chink in the armor for teams all the time, and it definitely seems like this Alabama team has a glaring chink in the armor. For some reason, their offense just could not get it done at the end of the day, and their defense couldn't stop a very, I guess, middle of the road Texas A&M. Do you have any stats on just kind of where they sit?
I think defensively, offensively, it's like if you are averaging 0.1 EPA per play, 0.11 EPA per play on both rushing and passing is below average. But it's like if you're averaging 5.97 yards per play on rushes and 7.1 yards per play on passes, it feels like you should be able to win.
You should.
But A&M, with a backup quarterback who had one leg at times, was averaging 9.1 yards per play on passes and 3.48. This is what's weird. A&M only ran 27. They ran 27 times, which is 47% of the time, and they had negative 0.04 EPA per play when they ran it. But they just threw the hell out of the ball when they needed to. As for sort of the imprint of these teams now, especially like in terms of Alabama, if that's what you're asking about, as of right now, I think that my numbers, which again this is not CBCR squared. This is your this is not CBCR squared. This is just my national rankings that I've sort of been tooling around with here. But as of right now, my numbers have. Give me a second. I'm doing this on the fly. So my numbers have Alabama is the 16th ranked EPA offense in the nation. and that's just on like or on like EPA per play. And defensively, as the, let's see, 44th ranked EPA defense. They are, above average. They are probably still a top 5 team. The numbers, there aren't really any numbers that really stand out for me. Although I will say, defensive PPO for Alabama is 116. That's bad, dude.
That's
That's
very
points
bad.
per opportunity. That's defensive finishing drives. I think that might be the closest. I think if you want to see like, well, what's the talent? What does that reveal to you talent wise? Is that I just don't think that they have like the core of their defensive line at a dominant enough level. And I think that's borne out by a couple things. One, 53rd in havoc rate is just average. They're 7th in line yards rank, 7th in stuff rank. So they're still kind of defending the run on, around the line of scrimmage pretty well, but 83rd in pass EPA rank. So I don't know. I just talked myself out of it. Maybe the defensive line isn't the problem. It's the secondary. I mean, it's just, this team didn't look average. They looked like a top 5 team that just lost to a team in a special home environment to me. But one thing I was struck by that I saw somewhere online, I think I was lurking on Bama Online, which is the 24/7 Alabama, Alabama message board after the loss, because I don't know, I'm a bad person. But one thing that struck me was there was someone on Bama Online that said something really smart, which was that there aren't any players on the Alabama defensive line too deep that start at Georgia. And when we played them in 2017, it was probably the case that of those defensive linemen, of the the top 6 defensive linemen on Alabama, 4 or 5 of them probably would have started at Georgia.
Yeah.
So I think, to me, that's really the big change. And I think that's reflected in the pass EPA as well, because it's like, I just did not see from them. You have Zach Calzada, who seems to be just like a Steven Garcia guy, who is just going to mess up against every other team, but then just like take Alabama apart for no reason. And I mean, Calzada played a hell of a game and he was gritty, but I mean, he wasn't particularly like, I mean, he didn't, I mean, I know his stats say different, but to me, he didn't look like he was like lighting the world on fire. I mean, his final rush line was, or his final stat line was 21 for 31, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception, 72 QBRX, which is 72 QBR is pretty good, but he didn't take any sacks and he made completions when he needed to, and they got production from their running backs when they needed to. And Bryce Young went 28 for 48, which is not great. 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 4 sacks, 60.5 XQBR. So I don't know. I mean, I think it was just, it was a cumulative kind of stack of things that ended up in an Alabama loss, right? It was this like cumulative denial of resources when you had the offensive backfiring, a cumulative lack of havoc from your defensive line, I think, in particularly, and then like just, I mean, Kyle Field is a special home field advantage. It's probably the best home field advantage in the country. And it was clear even from TV that it was a special night, right? And it was one of those things where, how many times have we seen the story where Bama gets behind big and comes back and breaks somebody's heart? I mean, we've seen it happen to us twice. And it was just, it struck me when I was watching this game that it was like, I don't think the fans at Kyle Field are going to let that happen tonight. Like, I thought maybe they would come back, and they did, but it just felt like Bama was never sure-footed the whole day. And so, I mean, as for what does that tell us about UGA? I mean, you still probably are going to have to beat Bama at the end of the year, but it feels possible to be now. Before this game, I would have probably picked Bama just to pick Bama because I don't want to get hurt again. But now I'm like, well, I mean, I think we got a decent chance to slow the run game down. And I don't know how much. I mean, Bryce Young seems like a good player, but is he Tua? I don't know. I'm starting to see a pathway to it a little bit more, which is scary, but I think is, that's part of having an elite team.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, looking at Alabama's remaining season, doesn't look like, I don't think they're going to lose to another SEC West team necessarily. So, yeah.
I here's what I will say. I don't think they are, but at Jordan Hare at night
could be tough.
What I saw from Auburn on the weekend made me think that Auburn is going to keep beating people that don't have great defense, because I think if you don't have a great defense, Bo Nix is just going to do some bullshit. I thought at times that Bo Nix looked pretty good.
Yeah.
At times he looked like kind of an idiot who should be playing tight end. But at times I thought he looked really good. I mean, his final stat line on the day, let's see, 21 for 38, 217 yards, one pick, no touchdowns, 30.4 QBR. Obviously not great. Negative 0.37 EPA per play, negative 15 EPA on the day. So less than not great, probably just absolutely bad. But there were times where it was just like, man, if he could just have a wide receiver catch a ball, if he could just escape a little quicker out of pressure, if he could be a little smarter in the pocket, I think he would have really made that game a lot closer, because I think he has the athletic ability to. But I think if he doesn't have, Devonta Wyatt and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, who just ate his lunch a couple of times, running after him, he's going to have more opportunities to do that. And I'm not saying that Auburn's going to beat Alabama. I do think that this Auburn team feels like a team that might mess Alabama's season up, though. I mean, that I can't imagine.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. Yeah, I will say that about Bo Nix. He did seem like he has the tools to be good. It just seems like he has such a chaotic energy, and he just looks like he's so unsure of himself that I just wanted to reach through and be like, hey buddy, you don't got to play football like that. You could take a second, just a second. Calm down, buddy. But it is what it is. We're here now. What does the offensive concept chart you have here tell us about, getting back to Georgia now, tell us about this team, and has anything changed from past games? Are we seeing anything different?
I just don't want anyone to think that, lest anyone think that we're like a national college football podcast. We only talk about games that we think affect UGA. So
yes.
Anyway, so in terms of the offensive concepts, the biggest thing I see on the day is that we ran inside zone read 15 times. It was 21% of our plays ran, which is about average, but it was 60% of our 60% success rate, and it was 20% of the share of our yardage, which is very, very good. So what that tells me is that, on the whole, the run games has started to pick up, and that, it's very frustrating to watch us run inside zone for no gain in the first half. But if what it leads to is, 8 inside zones in a row, mixing in with a couple of split zones, and you use those 8 runs to just basically break the game open, then that's working. I mean, I think as frustrated as I've been with the running game in terms of play calling, it feels like that what Monken is envisioning for this running game is really finally coming together. The only other thing I really saw out of it, or I see out of this, is that I think it's interesting to look at our weekly play share and see the rise of plays like split counter, which is a counter play that has some contrary moving offensive linemen, to see split zone in that list. Those are plays that use a lot more shifting and post snap adjustments of the offensive line and tight ends. And I wonder if that has to do with how much we trust Darnell Washington in run blocking. He looked really good on the day. Obviously, he had a really big catch and showed sort of what he's capable of. But I think his presence in the run game and I think just him being present on the team right now is taking more pressure off of John Fitzpatrick to do what he is good at, which is block, right? And so I think that those two things together are sort of small signs that, in some ways, the injury situation is improving. I think having Darnell Washington back is probably a bigger deal than we think it was. Other than that, I mean, look, the thing is, UGA didn't have a great day. They didn't bring their A game, right? They didn't, in many ways, especially in the first half, they didn't really look particularly productive on offense. And what was interesting to me was that the difference between the first and the second half had almost entirely to do with execution, right? And very much less to do with any specific tactical thing, other than Todd Monken has Todd Monken has excellent timing when it comes to play calling, but other than that, he was basically calling the plays that he had been calling previously, but we just executed them better.
So what about some observations, just kind of observations overall, and how can that lead into some takeaways from this game? I think I will say that Georgia taking the number 1 spot has definitely ruined the app that I use to aggregate headlines and to understand sort of subjective narratives, because nothing anybody
That's
is
the only
saying.
subjective
That's
narrative.
the only subjective narrative, which is not subjective. Georgia is objectively
Yeah,
number one. So
yeah. So, couple of things. I don't know why I'm yawning. Anyway, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today to eat and nothing else, and that's probably a disordered approach to eating.
Oh.
Yeah. So observations. I thought that the offense is showing a lot of potential given what we knew about the injury situation. I think Lad McConkey's emergence as a real wide receiving threat, Brock Bowers' emergence as a real wide receiving threat, the return of Darnell Washington, those are all good in the micro sense of being like, hey, they win us the game. But they're very good in the macro sense of here's who we have on the bench that we think has a chance to come back, right?
Yeah.
You know, you add JT to this offense, you add, I don't know, Dominic Blaylock, you add Marcus Rosemy Jack Saint, you add, I mean, God forbid you add like George Pickens, right?
Yeah.
What does this offense look like? And I think it's one of those things where if you're doing this with the injuries that you know you have, when those guys come back, if you have an offensive coordinator who can integrate them and use their talents the way they need to be used, which I think you can, then I mean, I think the sky's the limit for this team, right? I mean, Jermaine Burton didn't play, right? I mean, I think he was out there for a couple of snaps, maybe as a decoy. I think maybe he was the running back when Zeus scored from the fullback position, but he didn't really have any productive snaps on the day. So I think, you know, I'm very bullish on UGA's offense going forward. I think that the demise of UGA's offense has been greatly exaggerated. Defensively, I thought we showed some holes in coverage, right? I thought Chris Smith, I think we miss him as an organizer. I think Graham put that as one of his sort of takeaways from the game in his Graham coffee in his post-game takeaways was that Chris Smith really looked like he's putting together kind of a monster season, but in particular, he's very good at getting guys in the right place. And I thought you kind of saw there were some times when UGA didn't look confused on offense or on defense rather, but where UGA was just barely getting set before the snap, which is kind of uncharacteristic. I thought that, you know, there were a couple of really good catches from Demetrius Robertson in particular for Auburn, where Keely Ringo made a really good body position play on the ball, but just didn't get his hand there. I mean, by a second. And so, I mean, my takeaway from that is I think Keely Ringo continues to improve. And, you know, when you put yourself in perfect positioning and your hand gets there a microsecond late and somebody makes a perfect catch, there's not much you can do about that. But also I think in terms of just like my takeaways and my feeling about the game is for every time that there was a UGA play where I was like, wow, I'm really glad we knocked that ball down. It really could have changed the game. You know, on Auburn's only scoring drive, there were 2 or 3 plays that if Keely Ringo gets his hand up a second later or a second earlier, the drive probably stalls out. So I think there was some fluky stuff both ways where it's like 90% of the time, if Keely puts his body position like that, I don't know why I'm saying that like I know him. If Ringo puts his body position like that it's going to be an incompletion. So, you know, I think that chance and fate and the fickleness of luck is a force that gives equally as it takes. And I think that this is a really good example of that because for every UGA fan who's worried that maybe if we don't make some plays, this is a close game, there's an Auburn fan who is equally like upset that if, you know, more plays go their way, that maybe this is a close game, or if, you know, there's an Auburn fan who honestly should be more worried that if more plays don't go their way, that this is a bigger game. This game is a bigger blowout. I think Stetson looks comfortable. I think Stetson's playing the kind of ball he wants to play. He didn't really force anything. He threw the ball away a couple of times. There were a couple of times where he threw the ball away that on a play that ended the drive, where I was like, "Thank you, yes, literally." Like that is what he needs to do to become the final form of what he can be as a college quarterback. Is just be okay with punting and letting your defense handle it, right? And if he gets flushed out on 3rd and 5 and there's an open guy on the other side of the field, I would honestly rather just punt the ball and see what the defense can do at this point than I would see him force a ball downfield. And so I'm really happy about where he is as a backup quarterback. I think the running game looks really good in the second half, and I think that if this team can establish a consistent, efficient running game in the first half of a game, watch out. Because I think once you get that established, you start hitting those bombs way easier. On both of the bombs to McConkey, what happened was a hard play action motion, and on both of those bombs, of the 2 inside linebackers and 2 safeties on the field, 3 of the 4 got suckered in by the play action motion on both bombs. And that only happens when you have an efficient run game. And so I think one of the reasons I'm bullish on this UGA offense is that I don't think that UGA's offense is going to look bad running the ball in the first half the rest of the way through the season. Yeah, that's all I have for observations. Was there anything else you saw?
Well, speaking of my headline aggregator, the only other thing that people are asking now is, do we have a quarterback situation yet? So I'm going to ask you, do we have a quarterback situation yet?
That's a stupid ass question. No. No. What the? I'm sorry, but what?
Tell the people, Nathan. Tell the people at home.
Hold on, I just need to. This is the kind of magical thinking Western narrative bullshit that is the reason we started this podcast. So I'm glad I'm here for this. This is my public service announcement. And this is, and I think one of the things that we can help do with our stats is manage expectations. So I want to help you manage your expectations. Okay. I love Stetson Bennett. I think it's awesome that he pulls a big plug in the middle of a big win. I think it's great. I mean, mouth tobacco is gross, but good for him. I think honestly, he comes off as a really authentic guy to me. I don't think his shtick is shtick. I think his shtick is just who he is. You know, I don't think he does not strike me as a performative guy. I think Stetson Bennett is Stetson Bennett, right? And his name's Stetson, and he lives up to it. And like, I love the guy, right? And I think that one of the best things about college football is that Stetson Bennett's going to be like a high school football coach or selling insurance in 10 years, but he still beat Auburn, you know, Arkansas, and a good UAB team in the same year. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's amazing. I'm not taking anything away from him. But if you were a fan of UGA, and this is something I'm going to steal from Waiting since last Saturday, and I know that they listen to this, and I'm stealing it from them because they are correct when they said it when Kirby first got here, and I think it's something that you need to be okay with. If you want to be Saban, you got to be Saban. And if you're a fan of UGA at this point, you have to accept that with the wins and the accolades and the good feeling comes a ruthless, unerring, unfeeling, uncaring pursuit of perfection that does not care about narratives. And I don't think that Kirby doesn't care about these kids. In fact, I'm pretty sure he does. I know he does. I know he cares about this team. He cares about every guy on it. But part of what he does is he has a meritocracy, right? And Stetson Bennett will take the job from a healthy JT Daniels when he is better than JT Daniels. And I don't want to shock anybody, but he is not better than JT Daniels. I don't know what else to say. This is the Georgia way. I mean, look, this is before this podcast existed, but when the sort of proto bones of this podcast was me bitching to my friends on the back of the Sousa bus about the way Mark Richt coached, even though I loved him as a human, right? We always talked about how the Georgia way was what messed us up. We had all these ideas about the way things should be done the right way, and they were really just sort of arbitrary ideas that were making us worse as a team. The Georgia way now is like, we follow the process, we win. That's the Georgia way, and you have to accept both sides of that, right? Because the good side is, I feel good right now instead of feeling like shit because we lost to an unranked Auburn team with 2 losses, or they weren't unranked, but you know what I'm saying. I feel good right now, but the other side of that is you have to be able to accept that a meritocracy is a meritocracy, right? And I get it. Systemically, there are all sorts of things about college football that are inequitable. Systemically, there are all sorts of ways that this is in no way a meritocracy. I get it, right? A, I mean, don't cry for Stetson Bennett. He's going to be fine. And B, you play the you don't even play the higher ceiling guy. You play the better player. The guy who plays better plays. And of course, JT Daniels, when he's hurt, is not going to play better. But I think it's eminently clear, to me at least, that when JT Daniels has been healthy, he has had a higher ceiling than Stetson Bennett. I'll give you an example. Did we win the Clemson game with Stetson Bennett as a quarterback?
Oh, no.
Yeah, we won it. I'm sorry, not did we win it, but did we win it?
The dramatic pause, it got me.
No, sorry. I'm so put off by this question, not from you, Justin, but just in general, that I'm just like, it's like, I don't fucking care who looks more comfortable. Who's better? Who's the better player, right? Who do you think gives you the best chance to win? And let me tell you, when you have a billion injuries, the guy with the higher upside who scores you more points gives you the better chance to win. And it's not like Stetson Bennett has been some dude who throws 800 passes and no picks. He throws a pick or two a game. Anyway.
That's part of it.
All right. I'm controlling. I've controlled myself. I'm not going to get fired. we recorded a whole episode where we weren't streaming live, and I got really over my skis. Maybe we shouldn't stream the previews so I can really get the rage going.
Yeah,
We should only stream the reviews.
that works out. That works just fine. So,
All right, sorry, I don't even know what just happened. What segment are we on? I just blacked out.
well, I segued. I pride myself in knowing exactly how to like what buttons to push to get you there, because that did segue into your final takeaway. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, my last takeaway is this. If you think about how the season has gone, aside from the first quarter of the Auburn game, which I think, it wasn't worst case scenario, but it definitely wasn't the way we wanted the game to start in many ways. But aside from the first quarter of the Auburn game, I really don't think you can ask for a better half of a season than UGA has just produced, right? I mean, you would prefer that maybe there weren't as many injuries, but if you're talking about things that we can control, plays that we can win, I mean, look, it's the fifth inning and nobody's gotten on base yet. And maybe it's time that we start talking about not talking to the pitcher when he's in the dugout.
I don't think I understand that reference at all.
All right, let me help you. So in baseball, when a pitcher is having a very good game, a game so good that it is characterized by its lack of flaws, a game where not a single man touches and reaches base safely. After about 3 or 4 innings of that, people in the dugout between innings where the pitcher isn't pitching stop talking about him. They stop talking to him. They don't mention it on the Homer broadcast. They don't say anything about it because the level of excellence that pitcher is approaching is so ineffable, so evanescent, so like the gossamer of the cobwebs in the morning that to even speak its name would be to destroy it. What I'm saying is Georgia is playing at a level right now that like maybe we should just leave the pitcher alone in the dugout.
Got it. Okay. I understand the baseball reference.
If you're astitious, if you're not superstitious, but you're a touch-stitious.
That's me.
I think that if you're 6 games in at this point and you look at where UGA is, it's time to maybe be like, huh? Have you ever witnessed like a no-hitter from a pitcher?
No.
Because I was at one for the Braves a few years ago. I don't even remember. It was a weird day, and it's like when you get to inning 4 or 5, you just have to not talk about it anymore. Because to give it voice would be to kill this magical thing that is happening. And we're 6 games in, and I think that we're starting to. We're not quite to the 7th inning stretch, but we need to start thinking about it.
Yeah, start considering our next moves. So we've got some prediction reviews, and then we'll get into Ask CBC. So these prediction reviews, the first one was an over-under 1.5 bonus interceptions. I said under. That was true. Over-under 47 points. We both said under. It was just a touch, not too much under 47 points, but it was. We kept Auburn low, and so it brought us under that 47 points. Over-under 3.5 sacks. It was over. Both said over. Then... Oh, this is the Auburn 0 EPA. So we talked about EPA in the last one and ended up being
okay. I
significantly
didn't mark
under
this one because
0.
I didn't know what it was. Yeah. So we both said under. We both got it right.
Georgia 3.5 punts. I believe it was 2 on the day, maybe 3. That was an under. And then you were closer, not by much. I will say I was pretty excited.
Yeah, you were closer by 1 point. I was net 10 points off, and you were net 11 points off. So
I was pretty excited. By 38-3.
I think we both had a pretty good feel. We both had a pretty good feel for it. You were 11 points off net, and I had 27-13. So I was 10 off net.
Just a touch closer.
So yeah, I think we're starting to really round into form with these predictions. If only we could get CBCR squared to that level of specificity. Of course, we're just guessing, and CBCR squared is actually being smart, so who knows?
It's doing math.
Yeah, it's time for everyone's favorite segment. What segment is that, Justin?
It's the Ask CBC segment. So if you ever want to hear your questions answered on the show, make sure you send them over to us through Gmail or on our Discord or on Twitter. We will answer them on the show. We've been getting a pretty steady stream of Gmail questions, which has been pretty great. And we'll actually start the episode, not the episode, the segment with one of those right now. So the first question comes through Gmail from Mattzilla. hello, CBC. These ones just also they hit different because it's always an email format. I kind of like it. Instead of someone just like yelling their question at you, they're like,
it feels like they really. It's like this is a post, or this is not a post. It's an email from a person of taste and means, a person of sophistication. You know,
there's a greeting and a signature.
mm-hmm.
So, hello, CBC. Wow, a comprehensive road win in a hostile environment. 2 questions for you, gentlemen. Sorry. That is the feel to me. 1, do you think Stetson should get the start next week, even if JT, quote-unquote, wine bar Daniels is healthy? The Postal Service's own had a great showing in a hostile environment. Question 2, what is the best show in DCI history, and why is it the 2000 Cavies Niagara? Phenomenon of Cool by Blue Devils and Malaguena by the Cadets are also good shouts. Hit us with some answers. I really love JT Wine Bar Daniels. I haven't heard that before, but I could see JT like enjoying a nice like.
Yeah, I think as long as we don't mean wine bar in a derogative sense.
No,
right?
no. I would enjoy going and like enjoying some like nice hors d'oeuvres.
Is that a reference?
And
I don't remember what I've said 30 seconds after I said it, but didn't we talk about how like JT was like schmoozing wine moms at the wine bar?
Probably. Yeah, that makes sense. He would be. He'd show up.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "I love small plates," and they'd be like, "Yes, same. Let me buy you one, boy." Yeah, it'd be lovely.
So, I want to say that I think everyone's favorite DCI show is really about like where they saw it and like where they were in their life. And this, I think it's similar to your favorite movie or your favorite album. Like they hit in different ways. Like one of my favorite DCI shows, I think, is like 2005 Cavaliers, because it was one of the first shows that I saw live. It was, I think, the James Bond show. Might have been 2002, something like that. And that one I really love, even though I acknowledge that it's not one of the best ever. I mean, you know, people will tell you, I think Jashley just said 2012 Carolina Crown, which is just a very, 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 very good show.
Was that when the was it the Derby show?
No, 2012 Carolina Crown was. Give me a second. I want to make sure. Pretty sure that was Fanfare for the Common Man.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For the common good, yeah. So yeah, that one's really cool. They had like a 3D like cube they rotated. I remember I saw that.
That's
one
cool.
At the Atlanta show, and that was like their home show. And it was such a cool. I don't even think they won that year. So that was a good show. Personally, the best show. I mean, like, look, I haven't made like a lot of bones about the fact that I'm kind of a Blue Devils homer, but I mean, one of my favorite. I'm trying to think about what's my favorite Blue Devils show. I mean, I really like Fellini-esque. Fellini-esque was a very good show because it was just one of my. I don't know, like I had a friend who was in that core, and like I still have a friend, and it was just like a really important show for me. Like just seeing it live was like really important. But I mean, I'm trying to think of what was 2019 Blue Devils. That might be my favorite. What was the name of that? Not Ghostlight. Was it 2018? Ghostlight is very good, and it's very English major, and I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
No, 2018 was Nighthawk. No, was it 2020? No, they didn't have it. What's the one where they had the big like stairs? Oh yeah, no, it was Metamorph. Metamorph, I think is the best. Metamorph is the best DCI show I've ever seen. At live, just the sound was just like. I remember when they walked on the field and they first hit that first big chord, and it was like, oh, they're gonna win. A and B, that's like maybe the best brass sound I've ever heard in person. I love 2017. Yeah, so that's my answer. I'm sorry, can we like, do we have like a be back soon thing?
Oh yeah.
Can we put that up? My Redcoat section leader is calling me, and she wouldn't call if she wasn't having an emergency.
Be right back.
I have a real issue.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, we're in. I just had to take a phone call.
Second question comes
Back at
from
it.
Turner is a Georgia Bulldog hater. This is actually a Kentucky question, so this is going to be a quick one from the next show. How much shit talk is an appropriate amount given the fact that my brain knows we will probably lose, but my heart says we'll win 24-14?
Unlimited shit talk. Losses fade. Glorious forever.
That's right. No gods, no masters. Shit talk
Yep.
for life. Dizzy Dog, are chin straps on helmets imaginary?
No, they just don't work.
Yeah, I've
Like,
always
by
wondered
design.
that. How do they work? I mean, that's kind of part of it, though, right? It's supposed to come off if it
I
gets
mean,
hit
like,
in the right way.
yeah, you want to be able to get the helmet off at a notice. So I think that's
It's kind of like a
the balance
collar
of
on a cat.
safety. Yeah.
Like if your cat gets stuck up in a tree, you want the collar to come off so they don't kill themselves on accident. K-Sarge, at what point can we drop the borderline and award this team the title erotic? This team is just
We're already there. We're
erotic
6 games
now.
in. I think we have to just be honest with ourselves. So that's
Second
where we are as a
question.
team.
Since Stetson Bennett is now officially QB1 according to the announcers, it's time to ask the big question. How much better of a dual threat quarterback is Stetson Bennett than Justin Fields?
All right, Sarge, get out of here with this shit. Next question.
When will teams start to respect the Mad Lad deep threat? Corollary. Once they do, how do they stop Bowers in the middle of the field? I'll add like an addendum to this as well. What happens when we have both of these guys and the full rotation of wide receivers actually healthy enough to start?
We score like 45, 50 points a game.
Jeez.
That's what happens.
Give it to me. Ugh. Abby, stage manager for life, asks, what should you do with your hands when you don't know what to do with them?
Abby, I hope that your experience in watching me live stream over these past few weeks has shown you that I cannot answer this question from a pretty quantitative standpoint. I don't know. If you figure something out, I would love to know.
One of my favorite things, Nathan and I play a weekly D&D game, and I don't know why, but I don't know if you even know this, but most weeks when you join the group, the video chat, and your video comes on, most times your hands are like in front of your face. And I don't know if you do it intentionally or you just do it because it's who you are, but I've started noticing it in recent weeks that the video turns on and you're just like, I'm here now.
I have a lot of weird kinesthetic stuff that I do when I'm trying to think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like I have synesthesia. Like I think me and all 4 of my siblings have synesthesia. And a lot of my synesthesia is really based on like touch sensory inputs. And so sometimes like body positioning helps me like remember things. And so sometimes like when I'm doing D&D, that's why. But when I'm talking in front of people and I know that I'm talking in front of people, that's just me not being good on camera. I have no cool excuse for that. I have no cool, like, quirky reason.
It just is. Next question. Laura, but pissed. Does being number 1 make you nervous? Is this going to make them cocky and underestimate Kentucky?
No, it doesn't make me nervous because it's going to suck if we lose, and it would have sucked anyway.
Boom. Great answer. Cap Falcon, do you think playable extra turn cards are a good idea to print in standard MTG? And those of you that don't play Magic, I think you're going to need to give quick.
If you'll just
what the heck does that
forward,
mean? 46
you'll skip
minutes.
forward 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, no. So Magic is Magic the Gathering is a turn-based game, and there are sort of a bunch of different ways to win, right? The easiest way to win is to deal 20 points of damage to your opponent. Another way to win is just to take turns until your opponent quits. Historically, in more powerful, extended modern formats, this has been something that you can do sort of ad nauseum, which is another Magic combo. Right now, there's a card in Magic Standard called Alrund's Epiphany that dominated Magic World Championships 27th. I think there weren't 32 copies in the top 16. There was like a lot in the top 16 players in the world. I don't think playable extra turn cards are a problem. I think they're a problem when they're connected to a mechanic that lets you like sort of split the payment over 2 terms the way that Foretell does. And if you understood any of that, good job. And if not, let's move on.
All right. Ligastrom Dog. Was James Franklin the lone Iowa first place vote in the coaches poll? And how many losses does Penn State end up with at the end of the season? I'm going to pull up Penn State's season.
Well, let's look at Penn State's schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a pretty difficult road ahead of them, I feel. And without Sean Clifford, it is going to be a hard knock life.
So going forward, they have Illinois. That's a win. Ohio
Mm-hmm.
State feels like a loss.
Ooh, damn.
Maryland probably a loss. Maryland probably a win. Michigan probably a loss
Rutgers
if you
probably
don't
a
have Sean
win.
Clifford.
Yeah.
Rutgers and then Michigan State, I think you can beat. So it feels like you might be looking at a 9-3 season, which is still a very good season if you've lost Sean Clifford.
It's 9-4, right? Yeah, 9-4.
Hmm?
Because they just lost to Iowa. So, or 8-4, excuse me.
Oh, did they already lose a game?
Yeah, they lost this week to Iowa.
Yeah, but I only see 2 more regular season losses at Michigan and Penn State. So that would get them to 3.
You think that Michigan they'll win against Michigan State?
Yeah, I think Michigan State is really good, but I don't know that they can run with Penn State even without their starting quarterback.
Yeah, I feel like Michigan State is. I hesitate to say it, but I feel like they might be better than Michigan. But we'll see at the end of the season. I think. We'll see what happens. Michigan State has a decent schedule ahead of them. That wasn't the question though, so we'll see what happens later. Steven asks, we are now 6 weeks in. The defense has given up 26 points, 33 points now. How many? No, defense. I'm sorry. You're right. 26 points from the defense. How many total points does the defense give up for the next 6 games? So let's look at this schedule once more.
So
Going all the way down to SEC.
if looking at my, let's see, LSU football.net, is that what it's called? Anyway, looking at UGA's upcoming schedule, I think one of the easiest ways to sort of think about it is like who is better on offense than what we faced and who is worse, right? So probably the best offense to this point that we've faced is, I guess, Arkansas, maybe probably, or Arkansas or Auburn. I mean, it's definitely not Clemson.
Any of the others? No.
Yeah. So, all right, you've got Kentucky, which is probably better than Kentucky. Might be the best offense you played to this season.
You see
got
them,
Florida.
Yeah, 14 to 17 points.
Yeah, Florida also very good on offense. Missouri, bad team.
Garbage.
They're bad. Charleston, Tennessee. I don't know if I believe in that offense yet. Give me a week or two. Charleston Southern, bad. Should feel bad. Georgia Tech, bad. Should feel bad. So you have either 2 or 3 of the best offenses that you're going to play this year still ahead of you. I think you probably win all 3 of those games at this point. I think I would predict that, but I'm not sure if we can expect to give up single digits to any of those 3 teams, right?
No.
Like Josh Heupel, like playing a Josh Heupel team, we might give up 21 to Josh Heupel's team and win like 52 to 21, right? Because the way that UCF offense that he runs works is that when they're behind, they throw a lot. When they're ahead, they throw a lot. When they're even at parity, they throw a lot. And, sometimes when you have maybe an offensive line that's overmatched and you're doing that, you throw some interceptions and you give us some easy points. So I expect Tennessee, Florida, and Kentucky, I can all see scoring points on this offense. I will say, a lot of Kentucky's offensive production and explosiveness has been on the ground. And, they obviously have a very good deep threat, Wandale Moore, at wide receiver. But given that their quarterback is basically a D20 that is as likely to, crit successfully as he is to have a critical failure, and given that they are negative in the turnover differential to this year, and given that they have two running backs that like to cough the ball up, I don't know if I totally buy that Kentucky is going to score more than 13, 17 points.
Yeah, 17 I feel at most.
So I'm trying to think. So if you give Florida, Kentucky, and if you're conservative, or I guess liberal, and you give Florida, Kentucky, and Tennessee 17 points each, that's 51 more points on the year. I think you probably are giving up between 3 and 7 points to Charleston Southern.
The question
Tech
for me
and
comes down to, does
Missouri.
this defense give away more or less than 100 points by the end of the regular season?
Well, if we use the rubric I just gave up based on the numbers I just pulled out of my ass, I have it at like 6.
It's like 80 or 90, right?
I had it at like 68. They're going at 26 right now.
26, yeah.
So 26. Let's say that we're nice and we give them no, more than 68. So if we give them 17 apiece at Florida, Tennessee, and
Kentucky,
which
51.
and that's 51. So that gives you 70, 77, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're probably going to blank Charleston Southern. So that's not. So let's say you give up even 10 apiece for Missouri and Georgia Tech, which I think is probably too much. So that's another 20. So yeah, that gives you in the 80s. That puts you in the 80s. I could see under 100. Just depends really on how. It depends on if you ever like get yourself talked into a shootout with Florida, Tennessee, or Kentucky, which I don't think Kentucky really wants to play a shootout, but I think Florida and Tennessee might try to have one.
Yeah, got nothing to lose. Might as well. Man, oh man. Drewski asks, assuming the UGA and Bama win out and meet in the SEC championship and the Dogs come out on top, a very big assumption I know, what is the path to Bama also making the playoffs for a possible rematch? If Cincinnati stays undefeated and the Big Ten and Big 12 don't completely cannibalize themselves, I don't see how they make it in with 2 losses and no conference championship. I think that's correct.
I mean, I think the path is the obvious bias that the college football playoff has towards Alabama, and I don't mean bias in the the biased liberal media way. I mean bias in the sort of more data sense of like the college football playoff is a model that has trained itself on the way Bama looks when Bama is good. So I think that given the opportunity to put Bama in, they will, not as a conspiracy theory, but because Bama has trained them to select Bama. And I know that sounds like way more conspiracy theory-ish than I usually talk, and I don't mean it that way. I just mean like Bama has been the default for 5 or 6 years and will continue to get the benefit of the doubt because of it naturally, not because there's some Bama cabal trying to put Bama in. I think that's the way it would happen. But I think, one loss, Ohio State goes in over Bama.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oklahoma goes in over Bama if they win out, right? Mm-hmm. I think UGA, if in the scenario that we've established, goes in. So that's 3. So the question is, do you put in undefeated Cincinnati or 2-loss Bama? And that could Cincinnati really mess up. Yeah, well, no. I mean, I think they'd look for a reason to put Bama in there. I really do. I think they would. I think in that scenario where you have 3 obvious, and then the choice is 2-loss Bama or no loss Cincinnati, they actually might put Bama in because that's just the way the system is designed, is to screw Group of 5 teams.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then: does Georgia, like past years, still go to the playoffs if they lose to Bama in the championship?
If Bama doesn't catch another loss, and then you have 2 1-loss teams, and it's a close loss, then yeah, I think they go.
Yeah, we get the Bama.
If undefeated UGA loses to 2-loss Bama, I think that's a scenario where there's no SEC teams. But I don't. Even then, I think maybe.
Well, no. If we meet Bama in the SEC championship and lose to them, we win out the regular season, lose to them. Do we still go to? Do we take that 4 spot?
Yeah, I think if it's a close game, yeah.
Yeah. Just wondering if that Texas A&M loss will end up hurting us more than anything if we lose to Bama in the SEC championship. We'll see what happens. Erk Russell. But Buzz Doe Nix. Does Bo Nix dream of running backwards?
I think before Saturday, his dreams of running backwards were happy dreams, and now they're nightmares.
Christy in London asks, what renaming did Tank Bigsby earn himself with his play in the end?
All right, I have not yet pulled up his stat line. So
it's like 28 yards on the day, 10 rushes.
Yeah, 28 yards on 10 rushes, which is what, 2 yards a rush. So I'm going to say that he is firmly in Coop Smallsby territory.
Smallsby. Like
I don't even think
Smallsby.
He was Jeep. He was not Jeep Medium Speed on Saturday because he played us. He was Coop Smallsby. Abby is suggesting Kia Soulsby again. And I mean, yeah, he didn't get kicked off the team, so I'm not sure if he's Kia Soulsby yet. But no, he might be Kia Soulsby. We shut him down.
One game, Kia Soulsby. Ryan asks, can you both please give us your level-headed takes on what the targeting rule should be?
Do you have an opinion on this?
I mean, targeting is targeting. It makes sense to me.
I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, I know it seems harsh to take a good player out for one play for the rest of the game. I think if you think about it on a per game basis, it doesn't really make sense, and we need to change the targeting rule. If you think about it in a macro sense of like we need to change football so football can exist in 50 years, I think there's nothing too harsh.
Yeah.
Right? If the choice is Smoke Bowie, a player who I like and wish could play, is out for a half, or we have football in 2050, then yeah, put Smoke Bowie out for half.
It's wild though.
I mean,
Like who was it? It wasn't Smoke Monday. It was
not Smoke Bowie. Smoke Bowie is a recruit. Smoke Monday.
Yeah.
Smoke Monday.
Smoke
Sorry.
Monday is out in 2 consecutive games against Georgia due to a targeting call. And so it's just weird that, I don't know, it seems it isn't working the way it's supposed to be working. It's supposed to deter players from doing the thing. And so it doesn't seem like it seems like it's more treating a symptom rather than the cause. But you're right, though. Like in a macro sense, it is meant to try and, save football for the long run. So there is nothing, when considering the sorts of injuries that can come from that kind of contact, like it's a small price to pay, but it can, it can do a lot of damage in both micro and macros instances.
I know it feels capricious the way who gets kicked out and when, but it's like, I think on a large enough sample size, everybody's getting kicked out capriciously. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Final segment of the show. We'll get through this real quick because it begs you to get through it real quick. It's Yara Rages So Hard. First question.
I don't know that she asked like 3 questions, but yes, go ahead.
They're more statements most of the time. Their questions are usually pretty like, oh, this is how I feel. Okay. Why do you think Why do you think Bama choked so MF hard? Because that shit was wild. Also, shout out to Texas A&M. I love you, Gugum.
I mean, I think they couldn't deal with the pressure, which is great to say. And now they have to act like Mark Richt and be like, all of our goals are still in front of us, which is hilarious.
Why are so many people injured, and will anybody recover in time to play on Saturday?
It looks like Jamari Sawyer and Christopher Smith are going to play. Is
also
kind of like reading the tea leaves. So
based
cool.
on Kirby from Sunday, it sounds like JT was fine to play. Jamari was fine to play. There were several players that were fine to play again.
Any of them could have played had they had to, I think.
How do I get a high five from a football player if I'm playing the sousaphone at Dog Walk?
So there's an answer to this. I have a foolproof thing. So you want to have your horn. You want to have all of your music memorized, which you should at this point because we play the same 3 things every time, right? You want to have the weight of your horn on your right thumb on the loop, right up off your body. You want to be playing as normal. And then the key is fully extended hand, no bend in the arm, eye contact. People are very uncomfortable with direct eye contact if they don't know you. And if you were playing a sousaphone while at the same time staring someone into their pupils, and I mean not their face now, you have to get pupil to pupil eye contact for this to work. You have to stare into the windows of their soul, and then they'll give you a high five just to end the interaction.
All right.
It works 100% of the time. I'm telling you.
Every time. Assign the other host a D&D
also,
alignment.
if you're conducting, then they'll give you a high five because you think you're asking.
They think you're looking for a high five. Yeah. You shouldn't conduct like that.
No.
Assign the other host a D&D alignment. Also, assign me one. I'm curious.
Well, you're chaotic good.
Okay, I'll take it.
And
that's true.
No. I'm saying Yara's chaotic good. I think you're more like.
Man.
I hate to tell you this, Justin, but I think you might be lawful good, bud.
I might be lawful good. I don't know.
I might say neutral good. I would say neutral good. You break a rule every now and again. You're a real for the good of the many kind of person.
Yeah.
I would say personality-wise chaotic good, but you're also like a little cinnamon roll, sort of.
That's true.
Behaviorally, sometimes.
A little cinnamon roll, sweet little sugar-coated cinnamon roll. It's hard to say for you. I mean, you got layers. You got many layers to you. So, but I think overall, there's some chaotic nature, but there's also. Which one is so? I'll back up. Instead of diving straight into the definitions, I'll say, you have your own code. And there are things that should be the way that they are. And you speak truth to power. So I think that means chaotic good based on those.
Either chaotic or neutral good, depending on your. So neutral good is doing what you can do the best good without bias for or against order. Chaotic good is doing the best good you can, with a bias against order, right?
Mm.
I would
Okay.
say neutral good probably.
Neutral good.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
That
I
makes
will
sense.
work. I will work with a king, and I won't like blow up the building just to spite him.
All right. Not a question, but I want to congratulate Seth Smalls and his wife on the birth of their child about 9 months from Saturday. How nice. Congratulations, Seth Smalls and your wife on
Do you
birth of their
realize the
child.
joke? Seth Smalls is the kicker
Oh.
for Texas A&M who hit
See, I'm just reading
who hit
notes, and
the
so
winning.
I did not digest it yet. Yes. What colors would you assign different school subjects? So, like, what color is math, science, English, history, etc.? For me, math is red, science is green, English is yellow, history is blue. Duh. Except for me, English is blue, history is yellow, but that's just me. I agree that math is red
English
and
is
science
red.
green.
English is red because red's my favorite color,
Really?
and I like red. Yeah. I like green, so I say history is either green or blue. And then I think history is probably green, science is blue, math is yellow because I hate the color yellow. I think it's gaudy on me. It looks bad on me. And so I give it to my least favorite subject.
I love that very much. Thank you. What's your favorite song right now?
There's this bedroom pop artist called Remy Wolf that I'm really into. And she has this song called Liz that I think might be about a sex worker. And I have a thing that I really like songs about sex workers because I think they're cool and like weirdly romantic in a very like old school troubadour way. But Liz by Remy Wolf is a very good song. It's kind of a jam.
That's really weird because I just pulled up the song I was listening to earlier because it's one that I just added to a playlist, and it's also with Remy Wolf.
Oh yeah, what is
It's called "It's Okay" from Wallows with Remy Wolf and solo monophonic.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
that's
blah.
a very good one. Yeah.
It's very good. I added it immediately to my feel good playlist. But next question. So we gave up a touchdown to Auburn, pensive face. But like we're 6 games in, and have we given up so few touchdowns? Do you think we will give up any more throughout the rest of the season? If so, what game and when?
Yeah, I think yeah, not giving up. And Yara, I know, is like a young to football fan, but she was a Georgia fan before this year. So, but I think it's easy to get spoiled. Like, not giving up any touchdowns for like 5 games is abnormal and not something you should expect to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the law of large numbers kind of dictates that.
Yeah. If you woke up and became the best athlete in the world at one sport, what sport would you choose and why? Some non-consequential and not on TV for me. Like,
You know what my absolute answer is?
Huh.
I actually have thought about this. Archery.
Here's
why.
I could have chosen that for you.
I love to do it, so I think I would appreciate being really good at it, right? Because I do it already. But it is a nice combination of it's an individual sport, so you can like kind of rely on yourself to get accolades, right? But also team archery is like a big deal and has a lot of strategy to it. So you can get both sides to it, cooperative and individual.
Mm-hmm. I would love to do something like either like diving. I think it'd be cool. Like no actual swimming involved, just diving, because that's pretty neat. Or something like
Okay, carry on. I just had an image in my head.
of me diving.
No, just a specific image. Anyway, carry on.
Okay. Yeah. Or like bowling or something. Something, that's like a it's something you could like take friends out to. It's something that's accessible, but to be really good at it is neat. Final question. What costume should I wear?
Can I tell you my image?
Please do.
My image is you said diving but no swimming, and I just had this image of you dive and you make a perfect dive and then you just float on your stomach up to the surface face down, and then they throw like a life ring around you and drag you in because you just are like, I will not swim.
I
do not swim. I am a diver.
Yeah, just raise my hand out of the water and they have to come get me. I love it.
And they have like a little loop and they just pull you out like a dead whale. Like the carcass of some leviathan. All right.
Yep. They have to read my rider to make sure they bring the right flotation device. What costume should I wear for the Sousa show on Saturday? Are there costumes?
Well, they're gonna do like a Halloween themed Sousa show.
Oh, since it's okay.
I think you should dress up like I think RBG. I think you kind of Yara. You have a very RBG. You could pull the art. Like I could not convincingly be RBG, and you were maybe a little bit more. I don't want to use gendered words, but we'll say small. So RBG is a good one. I'm trying to think of like shit kickers. Cesar Chavez. What I'm trying to give. I want to give Yara like, costumes that rage.
Mm-hmm.
You could
That's
just be
good.
a barbarian. You could be a D&D barbarian.
That'd be good. That'd be really
or
good.
paint yourself up.
I like that very much. Well, that's our last question. Do you want to see us out?
Yeah, I do. This has been Chapel Bell Curve. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else you can subscribe to a podcast, including Spotify. If you liked what you heard here today, we'd love if you gave us a rating and a review. It really helps get the word out there. We'd also love if you would tweet out how much you love us at Chapel Bell Curve, which is our Twitter, at Instagram, which is our at Instagram. We are the official Instagram account.
We are at
We have control of
Instagram.
it. At Instagram for Chapel Bell Curve. Sorry. At Chapel Bell Curve for our Instagram. Or if you'd like to get in touch with us at either of those places, or send us an email at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com. If you want to support this podcast in a more sort of capitalist, physical, monetary way, which we would also appreciate, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. We will catch you in the Classic City this weekend, but until then, go dogs.